Welcome to That Game Show, the awkward, inappropriate, random podcast that occasionally talks about games.
What's up, everybody? What are you doing?
I figured I'd give some love to the audience. Give them a little bit of two for action.
But I mean, that's we're just coming back. I mean, we're 3 episodes in. I should have known by now. That's on me. I should have expected you to just jump in.
You gave me way too much time.
I gave you way too much time. If you're new to the show, Kyle just will randomly at some points, when I hit record and I give him a long enough time, he will just jump in just out of sheer impatience.
I'm like, we're lining up and I'm counting down in my own head when that gun's going off. And I'm like, I think I've got it down to a science.
Yeah.
It's not too hard to count from 3, though.
That's also very true. I should just stop doing the count and then just wait.
Yeah, spontaneously. Although you risk a few F-bombs in there.
That's also very true. What's up, everybody? Welcome to That Game Show. I am Chase Bunker. He is Kyle Helmstar. Thank you very much for listening. We have a lot to talk about in this show. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom came out. It is highly regarded as quite possibly the game of the year. A lot of great scores. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. We were going to lead the show with that. But then Kyle just said, no. Let me do this. In the rare moment that he decided, hey, I'm going to take the lead here. So Kyle, I say begrudgingly, the floor is yours. And also, please don't swear because it makes it difficult to edit.
I'll put timestamps on it, don't worry.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, so this news broke, earlier today? Maybe a little bit into this morning, last night. Overwatch 2 decides, hey, listen, we made this whole new game. We have all these promises. Also, screw the promises. And it's not really a whole new game anymore. Also, there was never a new game. It's actually just the same game with a 2 on it. And we got rid of the loot boxes. Oh boy. Do you want me just to go?
For context, but by the way, I think I have some stuff up here that I won't lie. I had a feeling you were going to talk about this. For context, Kyle is a big fan of Overwatch, and if you've listened to previous episodes, he will go on tirades about this, about how much he loves and hates this game.
Oh man, it's just, it's like it's not even abusive at this point. Now it's just masochism for me. It's not even close. So for context, all right. So let's go with this. I believe it was this morning as of recording this episode. So boy, I just gotta get this off my chest. It's a lot. So executive producer Jared Nouse this morning came out and said, hey, listen guys, we're not doing the PvE. And so this is the big thing, because Overwatch 2, when it was introduced as a concept, was okay, cool. So Overwatch 1 is here. We love it. It's cool. But let's do Overwatch 2 with PvE. And people were like, okay. So what? 2 is PvE, and we're going to keep 1 as PvP, and we're just going to kind of split the 2. And they're like, not quite. No. We're going to go and switch over to 2, where all the new stuff is going to be. By the way, they didn't release anything new for 1 as soon as they made that announcement. So remember that in your head. They promised us all these new characters. We've gotten 3. And wouldn't you guess, 1 of them was broken upon release and the other 2 were garbage upon release. Wow. So, we got this new game that was new game that was teased, and we've been waiting. It came out. It was buggy upon release. Who would have guessed it? It was almost like Bethesda made it. Riddled with problems with the servers, and it's okay, it's a new game, that's fine. It was free to play, so that is of benefit. We didn't have to drop $60 on an incomplete game, but they got rid of multiple things. So they changed it to 5v5. That could be liked, that could be disliked. Then they were that loot box system that you kind of really like, we got rid of it. And they put in a battle pass, and the battle pass is now costing money, and it's you don't need it to have fun, but it completely negates the whole purpose of I play a bunch of games, I lose a bunch of games, and I still get loot. That's gone. Maybe it's a loser's mentality. I don't know. But I was okay, that's cool though. We get PvE events. And then today, he pretty much came out and he said,
Yeah, so we got a lot of great ideas. They're great ideas. They're grand ideas. One would say they're fantastic ideas, but we have no idea how to do them, so we're just going to go ahead and scrap it. So to recap, we got a new game that wasn't new. We got promises that weren't promises. So pretty much I have spaghetti, and I now have spaghetti 2, but the only difference between spaghetti and spaghetti 2 is nothing. Just tears. Just why would you? What? The mother of.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So yeah, so as an avid fan, I can't even say, can I say professional podcaster? Are we professional podcasters?
I think we've done enough panels to call ourselves, quote, professional, even though we don't get paid to do this.
Semi-professional.
Yeah, there you go.
It's just mind-blowing. It seriously is. Like, I mean, 2022 into 2023 have been the years of like insufficient gaming, where developers promise all these games, then they don't deliver, and you pay $60 and you're like, why do I keep doing this to myself? And then we have this where it's like, I'm disappointed in a free game, and I don't even know how this is possible. And I'm kind of lost at the whole, we're just going to go ahead and take the thing that we promised. We've looked at it. We really like the concepts, the ideas, and all the work that the team has put in, but we're going to go ahead and scrap it. And it almost feels like we never actually had plans of doing it, because ultimately we knew that you suckers would buy that motherfucker and it wouldn't even matter. I censored that, right?
I think that's close enough, yes.
Bingo. So yeah, horribly disappointed, horribly sad. And now I'm just kind of left with like, okay, so where do we go moving forward? Because I'm not saying that I was waiting for that for the PvE, but like, I would say a majority of the most fun events in that game were always like Maze Snowball Offensive, which was still PvP, but then you get into the story modes where you had to deal with the Omnic Crisis, all these multiple variations of it. You had story modes that were associated with it where you kind of got like little insights into things. You're like, this is cool with associated skins. And you're like, so fun. And now you're just like, spaghetti too, man. But you eat it with a spoon because it's less enjoyable.
Yeah, you have to eat it with one less utensil because that's all they did. Which reminds me of what Imran Khan posted on Twitter. He is a former senior editor for Game Informer, and he does stuff over at Kinda Funny. On Twitter, he says, "Fans, put more story in Overwatch. Blizzard, we've been doing exactly what you want. Fans, excited gasp. Starting in Overwatch 2, there will be one fewer character per team." And then the reaction has been like the utter disappointment. Samito, former contenders and rank 1 Overwatch player. Overwatch 2 PvE will be a hollow shell of what was promised. Years of content drought for fractions of what was promised. No hero talent trees. Basically a regular Overwatch campaign released in small pieces. It was all for basically nothing. What a heartbreaker.
Is it even basically at this point? It is for nothing. Like they literally didn't give us a damn new thing. And it's like, oh, no, wait, that's not true. We got push. We got the new game mode push.
Yes.
Because
you got
Team Fortress didn't have enough things stolen from them.
Yeah, exactly. It's a glorified tug of war. Friend of the show, Jacob Wolf on Twitter. I feel for the devs, and there's a lot of people who will unfairly dance on their graves, so to speak. The reason this is the case is though that the C-level Activision-Blizzard have pushed PvE as, quote, game-saving for both the health of the game and Overwatch esports. Overwatch is a passion for many, but a failure as a whole from a more broad perspective. It has never been that the game is inherently bad or that the ideas behind it aren't worthwhile to create. It's a classic case of expectations, and the yoga babble doesn't meet the reality.
He's completely right. I mean, when you think about it, you've got a decadent like sundae in front of you, right? You've got this ice cream that's just so tasteful, so good, so nice and cold, but not too cold where it's actual ice. It's just it's got flavor that you can just look at it and you're like, that's some good looking ice cream right there. And then they get this little, they put a nice little banana right there, and you're like, ooh, okay, that's looking kind of, I'm feeling a little frisky. I got something waiting for me. And they're like, here's a little bit of hot fudge, a little bit of caramel. And you're like, oh boy, we're getting somewhere right now. And then they say, if you like that sundae, we got sundae 2. And you're like, oh. And they're like, sundae 2 is going to have 2 ice cream flavors. Sundae 2 is going to go ahead and have 3 sauces, a little bit of whipped cream on top, and we'll throw some sprinkles on there for pizzazz. And what they ended up doing was they gave you one less scoop of ice cream, they cut the banana in half, and they took a giant steaming poop on top of it. And now you're just left with banana 2. Not even ice. It's not Sunday 2. It's banana 2 because that's all that's left of it. It's just the storyline is good. The lore is incredible. The character the voice actors are phenomenal for the most part. Kiriko was a little sus, but that's okay. Like, I'm sure she tried. Maybe it was her new job. I don't know. But like the voice acting is amazing. Like there are so many good things, the concepts, the work that they put into the characters. Like there are so many good things about it. And then this is just where I feel like they don't care about the game because they know people are going to play it regardless. That's the part that loses me. Like, where in this concept of an idea did you look at it and say, all right, we're on the cusp of something great. Now let's just go ahead and back off. Let's just foot off the gas. Screw it. It's like having a game show, you know?
It's one of those where we've seen Blizzard just slowly go on the decline, and it's one of those, like, they'll have all these ideas. Like it kind of reminded me a bit of StarCraft Ghost in a way, where it was a game, it was this idea, they liked it, they had like all these they had a good amount of it worked on, and then they just said, no, we don't need this game anymore. And it was just like, wait, what? Like, there's no reason for you to cancel this. I can understand, like, going in and just saying, oh, hey, you know what? I think we need to push this back a little bit. And now part of me is slightly wondering how much of this is based on the Microsoft borderline failed acquisition of Blizzard. And I feel like there was a part of this that was saying, okay, hey, right now we might not be able to do this. Well, Microsoft is buying us. We're going to have more money. Maybe we can pull this off. And now it's like, the spaghetti comparison, I feel like, is perfect because of the fact that you completely got rid of the first game. Like, you phased that out entirely for this new game that you said was going to be this PvE. Like, it was going to be the Overwatch that you know and love, but also it's going to have PvE features, so it's more accessible to everyone. Also, we're going to do season pass because we're a game in the 2020s, so therefore you have to have a season pass of some kind.
Yeah.
And now, between the botched launch of Diablo Immortal, there's now this. I have zero faith in Diablo 4 being great. Like, I wonder what's happening with Blizzard. I've questioned a lot of what Blizzard has done, and I feel like I don't want to say we're witnessing a decline, because I feel like the decline of Blizzard has just been happening for years.
I would say that it happened a little bit pre-Jeff Kaplan's departure, but I really sit there and wonder. I know that there's a ton of reasons that were speculated. I know that there was obviously a lot of, like, there were scandals that were going on. There was a lot of workplace harassment, a lot of things that ultimately, like, even under your jurisdiction, like, they just can't be happening. But I also wonder how much of this was the company looking at the profits of the battle passes and other games and saying, we want a battle pass. And Jeff Kaplan kind of holding out, maybe that's not what he wanted. Because I think there was an interview where he said he was not a fan of it. And I wonder just how much of it became like, they were like, we're going to do it. You either can get with it or you can get out. And he was like, all right, well, I'm out then on good terms, because I mean, the only thing that keeps me from ripping the battle pass apart is that they introduced it and then they hid characters behind the maximum tier while making it a very difficult battle pass to actually achieve because of the low level, like, leveling up skill. They hid characters behind that, and I was going to lose my mind if I could. And I still, to this day, actually, for a while, could not play Ramada because I missed the Battle Pass season due to school stuff. I play as much as I can without being, like, addicted. And the problem is, like, so you're telling me that I missed out on who was a pretty damn good character because I didn't play it every single day for multiple hours and lose half the games that I played at least? That's some stupid, like, right there. And it's a thankful thing that they made it possible to unlock Ramada otherwise, and this will probably follow with Lifeweaver and stuff. But I'm like, if you guys hid a character behind a battle pass that you have to pay for, I just start to wonder, like, now you're starting to tear into that whole play to win category rather than, just play for, or like, pay for cosmetics.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the slope really gets slippery, in my opinion.
Overwatch 2, I feel like what sucks now is Overwatch 2 was gaining momentum because people were now starting to be able to play it. You didn't have your server issues anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then now you suck the life out of it. And now I'm wondering what's next for Overwatch esports, because that's also been going down.
Yeah, I don't see that recovering unless I mean, like, you may see some live pump back into it with Life Weaver. There have been a lot of really cool plays and compilations that I've seen on different things like Reddit and YouTube that genuinely invigorates the level of mobility in characters because of his ability to life pull on top of his aerial ability. So that's fun. But I don't think that I don't think it invigorates the community as much as it needs to professionally. And I think that ultimately it's going to fizzle out until there's a new game on the market that can take over and kind of run the scene. And I just don't see this game holding steady at this point. Not professionally anyway. It'll hold its player base otherwise because it's a free game. But
I want to see, because I'm looking at their views of recent matches, and like some of them just aren't good. Like one of them, like the between the Shock and the New York XL is at 26k views, excuse me. But then you look at the Valiant versus the Mayhem 3 days ago and 9.3k. It's like, I want to know, like, that's not really a good indicator of who's watching, but I feel like the views have also been significantly going down as well. And I feel like we're starting to see the decline. We've been already hearing reports of sponsors, or like the people that have like paid money to get into this are starting to pull out because they're not getting their money back. They're not getting any return on investment. And I feel like now it's like, okay, I've seen this before. I saw this with Heroes of the Storm. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to shut down Overwatch entirely, but no. I feel like
not yet.
It's a big blow. It is a massive blow to the game and its community.
I'm very curious the direction that they go with next, because we've been kind of held back from PvE events dating back to Overwatch 1 when they teased 2, because they were saying, hey, we're preparing the PvE for 2. So we stopped getting holiday events. We stopped getting random year events like we used to. Like, we had Halloween. We had, obviously, Junkenstein's Revenge. They kind of spruced up the second and third year. Then they kind of just let it stay flat. But it was a fun mode that you could play for a few days and be like, aha, like, it's okay. Like, I enjoy this change to monotony. And then you go into, like, you had the Retribution event. Again, a fun change from monotony. It's like, okay, there's a little bit of new incorporation here. Like, it's a standard PvE, but like, I'm enjoying little bits of it. Then they just stopped and they just kept on recycling the same event. And you're like, all right, well, hopefully this new PvE is really good. And now it's just like, they've just let that whole thing die for I guess it'd be 2 years now?
Yeah.
Because they announced, it's been like 2 years since we got something really new. So I don't know, man. It's a stab to the heart, honestly, because it's like, I've been waiting for this. I think a lot of people have been. It's not even like we were like, well, some people's opinions were probably really high, but.
Well, yeah, no, a lot of people's opinions were high because, like, that was the thing when we played the story missions, which, by the way, they're saying story missions are going to come in season 6. And so it's like, okay, so if you want any quote story, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. But it's just the fact that, like, this was your main sell. This is why we're going to have Overwatch 2. And the only difference now is you eliminated it, and you've also just decided that the difference between Overwatch 1 and Overwatch 2 is just the subtraction of one character and the addition of a battle pass. And that is essentially it. And I think it's Blizzard taking the easy way out instead, and found that there was no profitability in it. Therefore, we don't need it.
It's like a kick in the booty hole. You always expect to get kicked in the nads, but you never expect to get kicked in the booty hole.
I think Overwatch 2, I'm going to say it. I think Overwatch 2 is an absolute failure now. because your main draw, your main specific thing that was supposed to keep you to stand out from the previous game was PvE. And what did you decide to do? Hey, we can't have it anymore.
As a hot take. One might even say a bunker's burning hot take.
Chase Bunker.
I think what's funny is that a lot of people in that community also hate it.
Everybody hates it. There's nothing good. Like, you play and you do your rankings and you just think to yourself, this is the season that I'm not gonna suck.
Kyle Helmstetter.
And then you rank and you're like, I still suck.
This is That Game Show.
So another big thing that happened in the world of gaming is the release of Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It is a game that I will only associate as the game that would not be announced at a Nintendo Direct because the Queen of England died. And that was the only reason why they didn't announce it. And that's the only thing I could think of every time people talk about it.
Rip moment of silence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like we got to do something lighthearted. We've been on a roll right now, shredding people, and I'm sure that they're really hurt by our very influential opinions.
Yes.
So
yes.
This is a good shift of gears. I like
It
this.
is a good shift.
Mhm.
Have you played it yet?
I have not gotten the chance to play it. Not yet.
Okay. I have not played.
Most certainly playing it soon, though.
I have not played it yet. My wife is playing Breath of the Wild right now. I have a feeling that as soon as she's done, she might clamor for this game. Because right now she's clamoring for one game. It's Silk Song. And I have a feeling she really loves Hollow Knight. And so I have a feeling when she beats Breath of the Wild, she's really going to want Tears of the Kingdom. By the way, it's been a while. I think maybe... I want to say maybe since Elden Ring that we've got like universal praise. I know God of War got a lot of like 10s.
Yeah,
Like God of War Ragnarok got a lot of 10s, but I feel like I also saw some 8s in there. But it's like IGN 10, Inverse 10, GameSpot 10, Destructoid 10, like Game Informer 9.8. Like all of it is just praising this game. And I think what's even better is they have this new feature, and I don't know what it is because I'm not familiar with Legend of Zelda, but it's essentially like you can create like these own like these mechs in a way, and you see people essentially just make makeshift Gundams and just these vehicles, and it's like, oh, this is Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts, but substantially better.
Giving people the ability to create things in games is by far one of my favorite things. I loved the gummy ships, the ones that people would come up with because they'd be so weird. I love the creation of things. I love that they did this because it's something small, but it's sweet. It's such a nice little niche touch on top of things.
It really is. And what's crazy is that it's probably going to be a staple now in all the other Zelda games. Like, wait, hold on. I want to make sure I have my creative function again. They kept the weapon damage system, and it sounds like I'm not a fan of it, but it sounds like they also fixed it with like the fusion system. Like, it sounds like they took everything that was wrong, and I use that term loosely, with Breath of the Wild, and they somehow like made it significantly better to make this clear Game of the Year contender. It's probably going to win unless like Starfield or something like just blows it out of the water. But this might quite possibly be, and I know we're only 3 years in, Game of the Decade.
Ooh, we have never done a Game of the Decade.
We have not.
Before. That'd be an interesting one.
That would be an interesting one if we actually did that. We would have to do it in 2030, and it would just be for the 2010s Game of the Decade. If we did it our style, it would be that way.
It's Skyrim on the fridge. I will say this though about The Legend of Zelda and Tears of the Kingdom is I think that this was a game that for the first time I'd truly say really pushed the limits of the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
I know that it got, and this was not a fault to the game or the developers. This was more of just a critique of the console. That there were some very occasional moments where the frames dropped to 20, and that was like one of the first times that I've heard like everybody pretty much unanimously saying this is a hardware limitation, like truly, because Pokemon tried to pull it and they didn't get anywhere with it. And I know that Breath of the Wild was praised pretty universally for being able to find a way to stretch that hardware limitation. This is like the first time where I think that people are kind of like, does this game almost lead to a new console development? I mean, they haven't teased anything about it to my knowledge, but is this game so good that if they continue this franchise, they're like, we need a whole new console just to run this game?
So it's funny you say that because one, I watched Andy Cortez from Kind of Funny on stream. I believe it was him that said this, that this would more than likely make Nintendo develop a Switch Pro or something along those lines.
I think it will.
And the thing is, when you said, like, does this make it like happen? It's not the first time technically, because if you remember back in the N64 days, Donkey Kong 64 came with an expansion pack just so you could play it, because there wasn't
expand dong.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it. It was more RAM to help run the game essentially.
Yeah, more RAM.
Yes. And so I wouldn't put it past Nintendo to just develop a Switch Pro or some form of enhanced Switch to better play Tears of the Kingdom. I know some people might say, well, what about the Switch OLEDs? Like the Switch OLED, that doesn't even compare. Like that's substantially different than a Switch Pro.
Say that actually, now that you mention it, Nintendo's always kind of found that the reason that they advance their systems have been they reach a pinnacle on the software that they're at with a particular game. Like I would say that Smash Bros. / Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, was it? I don't know. But that was the one that really pushed them to be like, okay, well, the Wii U was the Wii U. Let's go ahead and do something bigger now. And the Pokemon games kind of pushed it too, but we didn't really get a Pokemon game on the Wii U. I mean, like, Battle Revolution doesn't count. Typically, you're right, actually, now that I think about it. They really do find the game that kind of pushes their limit of the software, and then they're like, ooh, if we want to make even bigger profits on something better, let's go a step up. So I'm curious, do you think that they hold on to the Switch design? Like that whole like family-friendly portable console? Or do they go more stand console-esque?
No, they'll stay with the handheld. Like the Switch, the handheldness is substantially more profitable for them. I think that's personally. Yeah, I think that's been one of the biggest draws is the fact that you can play things mobily. And it's also partially why we have things like the Steam Deck, because of the fact that you can take a whole console, hold it in your hands, and you could just travel along with you. And I think if
PlayStation should have thought of that, man.
I mean, they did.
Should have thought of that. Oh wait.
Oh wait. All the Vita people that are listening, like,
sorry, mates.
Oh man,
triggered.
I will say this to all the Vita people. The PlayStation Vita died so that we can get the Nintendo Switch and the Steam Deck. Thank you for your sacrifice.
More specifically, so that we could get the Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom.
Chase Bunker.
Did you actually like play anything that came out in 2022?
Kyle Helmstetter.
Oh, see, you prefaced it with 2022. I was going to hit you with you know that game with the T-Rex where your Wi-Fi hasn't loaded yet, so you're just like the T-Rex hopping over the cacti?
Okay.
I played that multiple times. That was a lot of fun.
This is That Game Show.
And that's going to be it for our show. Thank you so much for listening. You can follow me on Twitter at Chase Bunker. You can follow Kyle on Instagram at Scandinavian_sensations. You can also watch us on YouTube if you'd like, youtube.com/thatgameshow. I don't know why I'm saying some of this stuff because Shane already says it in the outro.
Oh.
So, yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah, it just doesn't say the Twitter handle and the Instagram handle, but he's like, oh, just check out YouTube and Facebook. And then he just says the addresses. By the way, if you've been watching us on YouTube, thank you so much for checking us out and for also watching our shorts. Shorts are weird, and it's really weird to like make them, but they are fun because it's like you get like the bumpers, but it's in like the own like in a short form. I guess that's why they call them shorts.
I wish I had something to say to that just outstandingly indulgent comment, but I don't, so I'm just going to leave it at that.
Thank you for your contribution. Anyway,
You're welcome.
thank you very much for listening, and we'll talk to you all in the next episode.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you check out more episodes on iTunes and on our YouTube page, youtube.com/thatgameshow. And follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/thatgameshow.